Honestly, at this point, I still don't know how I'll name it. So hey, welcome to my channel, viewer! Have you ever been bored from your real work? Obviously I can hear you answer, but let's pretend it was yes. So one day I just decided that I need a pet project. I am so sick of those platform policies changing like every day, so I choose to approach a man's personal website is his castle, which I think sounds great for a pet project topic. Actually, it's not done yet, but I have something to show. So let's dive into the story of how my pet project went wrong, but ended up right.
I am Rendru Ayan, and I'm here to ask you a question. Is a man not entitled to easily choose a framework? No, says the users of Next.js, one language for both. No, says the users of Golang, best framework is no framework. No, says the users of Fast API, just no. I rejected those answers instead. I chose something different. I chose the impossible. I chose write framework from scratch.
As for the language, sorry, we will code it in. Oh no. So, how to make a good pet project? Choose a problem which you have encountered in a field with some level of expertise and make a solution in the form of library or application. And obviously you need to write a proper description, publish links somewhere, deal with criticism, resolve issues of your user. It may improve your hard skills, definitely improve your soft skills, and especially if you're a student, it will give you some kind of working experience, which is great. But hear me out, a working experience. And if you have a full-time job, it's basically a second one, where every task is only on your shoulder. Therefore, I decided to try a fun-driven development, which has one important goal: you having fun. So for this particular project, I will forget about all conventions and legacy. If it works for me, it's fine. We will write only bare minimum, and I won't do any investigations. We'll just code what will make sense for me at that point of time. As I choose Apache as our temporal web server, our entry point will be an index.php file, which will load class loader.
Wait,
What?
what is this diagram? It doesn't look professional at all.
Is it better like this?
A single UML character won't fix it.
Okay, I will add a bit of successful startup style. If you have any complaints, write them in a comment. So what is the main idea of the project? So basically, I would like to serve a multiple projects under one framework instance, which will allow me to have a global routing between them, and also will allow me to make requests between them without actually invoking any requests. Those projects will be named as containers, and we'll store them in containers file, which basically is a dictionary or associative array having relations between containers and their namespaces. By using class we'll be able to register a callback function as a load function. In combination with loading data from containers, we'll be able to have a full control over how classes are being imported inside our codebase. As an imaginary example, imagine that we have two containers A and B, and we need to quickly disable container A. And because we have relations between containers and their namespaces, we can just tweak the namespace of container A to be B, so all the routes and requests will go to the container B, and if container B will just output everything, I don't know, maintenance text or some form of error, will be able to easily route all traffic to it without actually doing any changes to actual routing. Then we'll include a static config class, which will store all the global configuration data. Next one is a core class, which will be responsible for gathering data about request, checking which environment we are running for, and invoking specific environment strategy class and passing the request to that specific strategy class. Yes, we have separate strategy for different environments. So as example, if we are running development environment and we caught an exception, we'll create and pass the request without exception to a specific debugger instance to display it, while this functionality is not necessary for production environment. But those are post actions, and obviously before them we need to get this request and pass to base router, which will load callback from a routes file, and based on callback response we'll create a container instance and pass the request to that specific instance. This will be our global router, and that callback will store various checks mainly for domain name and will return the name of container to which request route to. Temporary, I would use plain arrays for it. Nothing is more permanent than a temporary solution. Let's get back to container. It serves the role of entry point. It may prepare other tools and then pass a request to a local router. Actually, for local router I made a nice drop-in solution which helps organize routes better with support of middlewares. And then we are passing a request to a specific presenter or controller or whatever architecture you may use inside your project for business logic to continue. Let's actually build something. To do up? No. Circus baby animatronic? Yes. So what's about technical specification? She can dance, she can sing, she can take song
requests. She can even dispense ice cream.
It will be the least useful routing tutorial you have ever seen. A small note from editor me. Obviously framework has much more functionality. For the first video in possible series I just wanted to showcase routing. For some reason it was sounding to me as a good idea. Let's start by creating a new container for our demo project with the help of create container command. Now, as command output suggests, let's add our new container to a container list with its namespace. By default, that command also installs front-end framework, ORM and other useful tools, but we don't need them today, so we'll remove them quickly in a time-lapse. Let's actually bind our new container to domain. We can achieve that by editing global router. By simply adding a new check, I mean comparing request domain to the constant one. We will use demo.local for demonstration purposes, and if this check succeeds, we need to return a class name of our container and also a target function. Now let's actually create a controller for our demo project. So I will just quickly copy container.php file and rename it to animatronic container. And let me remove those leftovers. As you all definitely know, animatronics can do two things: dispense ice cream and scoop someone. So let's actually build an API service mimicking animatronic behavior, and for that purpose I will create two methods for this service. It will be dispense ice cream and scoop someone. Just for the showcase, our API service will return just messages. So when an animatronic performs action, we will receive a message stating that like scooped someone or dispensed ice cream. Now let's actually register a new local route for our animatronic in order to perform action. So again, global routes are responsible for routing requests to a specific container based on domain, and local routes actually are checking parameters and other stuff in order to identify what is the target function of the. So first parameter is actually responsible for determining which devices can visit that route, and we are leaving it blank so all devices can visit it. Second one for specifying allowed meet. Third one contains an actual URL. Fourth one is a closure where we can write custom checks. Currently we'll just return true that request passes all checks, or use some predefined middlewares. And last two are just a class name and a method name, which you invoke and pass requests to. In my experience, majority of frameworks which I have used have unified middlewares, and it's not always obvious by the name if it's just modifying the request, modifying the response, or just guarding the route. And for the sake of experiment, I decided to split middlewares by their roles in my framework. We have middlewares which are responsible for guarding the routes, we have prewares for modifying the request, and we have postwares to modify the response. In order to achieve that, we just need to copy the name of a target method, duplicate it, and add the middleware's prefix to it, and then we can just specify prewares and postwares. For API 1, I decided to use JSON encode as a postware, so our returning array will return a JSON response. And our animatronic successfully working. Let's actually add some more things. Let's display a 44 status when someone tries to open root of our website by defining a new method in our container and returning a response with status 44. Let's actually use it as a default route in our global router. And also use it as default route in our local router. Now let's switch to Chrome, and if we are going to visit the root of our website, we should see a 44 error, and we have seen it. Let's actually demonstrate how our middlewares are working, and for that we will create a new folder middlewares and create a new middleware inside it. It will be responsible for modifying requests and adding flavor of an ice cream to a request, which will then return as an API response. Let me quickly copy-paste the boilerplate code of a preware, change the name and remove unused imports. Let's start actually by defining a constructor function which will be requesting a flavor name. And now let's modify our request to store in the data section that flavor name. Using data as this is actually not a good practice, and it's definitely not a safe practice, because other middlewares or any other code can overwrite it, but for the sake of demonstration, it will do the trick. Now let's actually modify the method and return that flavor, and we receive that flavor from a request. Now let's actually use our preview when commenting that line, but I forgot to register our new preview, so let's open middlewares and register our new middleware with name setFlavor and by specifying a class. Let me copy its name and paste it in the preview section. And as our preview requires a flavor name, let's specify it as chocolate. Okay, now let me test it. I will open Chrome and reload the page, and we can see that it successfully displayed chocolate flavor. Yay! Let's add another feature. So, as we all definitely know, animatronic can scoop someone only if that person is alone. So let's add a new property in our config called isAlone, which will be responsible for telling us is person alone or not. Now let's create a new middleware which will use this value in order to determine what route to use. Again, I will copy its name and make some cleaning. If middleware will return false, we won't use that route, otherwise we'll use that route. Let's register it. Let's register a new route for scoop someone method. I will copy method name and paste it to the route. And actually, if our closure just returns true, it's not necessary, we can just pass the null. And let's use our isAlone middleware by specifying it in the route. As those two routes have exactly the same URL, the only difference is in middle. If isAlone is true, we'll use scoop method, otherwise we'll dispense an ice cream. Let's actually test it. So isAlone is false, so we should reload the page in Chrome and see dispensing chocolate ice cream. Yeah, it works. Now let me tweak the value to true, and for some reason we received an array, not an actual response. Okay, I forgot to add a postware to the scooping method. So now it should work. Let's test it again. Let's reload the page, and yay, it's working. That's actually it. If you think that I should stop creating content after this cringe video, please write a comment down below. Otherwise, write something like, "Hey buddy, great content, give us more." There is plenty of things I can make video about, like debugging, front-end framework, connection between them. Yeah, there are plenty of topics to cover.